See this chair here? Not really. TikTok can't see the chair, but everybody else on YouTube can. Let's fade this out. Is this the end of the song? I think it's the end of the song. We'll let it go. There we go. Timing is everything, and even that worked. Good morning. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service, and this is Ask a Traffic Cop, where you get to, well, ask a traffic cop questions about stuff and things. Primarily, the questions are about traffic and police stuff in and around Ontario law. That's a Canada-wide thing. But you know what? If you've got questions, we generally have answers, and that's what we're doing here for a full hour, right till 11 o'clock, and sometimes a few minutes late. If you are watching on Instagram, please use the Q&A function. Let's see if it works here on TikTok. No, it doesn't. I'm hopeful. It hasn't worked since May, but I did get a response to my inquiry about stuff and things. I was asking, no, I don't want to do that. I was asking TikTok for help, fix the problem, and they came back and said, we understand you're having a problem. Could you tell us what account it's about? I'm like, the account that I'm sending you the question for. Anyway, it was very frustrating. In any case, if you are on TikTok, please use the chat function. We've got friends in the chat who will take your questions and throw them onto a screen that I can respond to them with. If you are on any of the other platforms we're simultaneously broadcasting on, that includes YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Everybody but Twitter can just ask in the chat, and I'll see it right here, like the message from Kayla Draconis, who says greetings and salutations, and Sean Chen, who says good morning, and Leo wife, my wife, who says good morning. It's a gray day today. You know what? It is a yucky kind of, I don't know, my joints don't like me today, and that's likely because of the gray. Yeah. But if my kids are watching, hello kids, and of course to my beautiful wife, hello. What do we got going on here? We've got Chase, who also says, morning from rainy Waterloo region. You're everywhere. Wasn't it Muskoka yesterday? All over the place. That man travels. Okay, let's get, by the way, if you're watching on Twitter, my apologies, you cannot ask us questions within Twitter, but you can go to trafficcop.ca. In fact, you're all invited to join the party at trafficcop.ca. What is that? It's basically just a quick link that takes you to visit us on Volley. Volley app allows you to send me video, voice, or text, and it's a great way to communicate with us all the time. You can use it all the time. It is an app. It runs on Android. It runs on iOS. It works on Mac or PC. It even runs just native on your web browser. So we love it. Mostly, I love it, but it's okay. It's me who you're talking to. We've got a community of just about 90 people in there. Always room for more. You can, and I've got a couple questions. Actually, let's start it off. So you may have caught the video that went up yesterday from Maury Sherman, Damn It Maury's account. He's a producer from 92, is it 92.5, the Roz and Mocha Show? He put up a video of an intersection which had some interesting signage. Now, it's on the King Street, what is it, the King Street Pilot, which isn't a pilot anymore. Basically, on that street, you can't really drive through it. Just about every other intersection is no left turn and no straight through, which means you have to go right. Well, there were some construction crews working, doing some water main repairs, it turns out, and they put a no right turn sign. So what does that mean? It means you can't go left, you can't go straight, and you can't turn right. That's a problem. And Maury put up a video which has now had close to 500,000 views, and he made note of that, which I noticed, and made some phone calls. Now, if you should come across obvious things that there's a problem, someone told me that this was for 2 weeks an issue, and no one called 311. That is what 311 is for. A lot of people commented in saying, hey, great Toronto Police for finally doing something about it. Why did it take you 2 weeks? It's not a police function. We don't drive around looking at street signs to make sure. Now, if we notice something, great, but we're very often doing police work as opposed to focusing on these things. We do have construction liaison officers that do inspect sites throughout the city, and that's what they do. Obviously, they didn't go there because they can't be everywhere all the time. But if you see things that are wrong with signage, call 311. Notify them. They are the city. That is the way to go. Not an emergency, not a police issue. But thank you to Maury for making us aware of it and making a funny video. What do we got here? We got questions coming in from everywhere. Let's start with the stuff coming in on TikTok. Is the MTO separate from the police? I've seen a few officers with MTO on their vest. Yes, the Ministry of Transportation is not the Toronto Police. It's not a police agency. They're specifically doing transportation inspections. They have officers that do inspections for motor vehicles, and they are a separate organization. And they do have the authority to pull people over and ticket them. And they do great work. They are specialists, truly specialists in the field. We have officers here that have MTO training or CVSA, commercial vehicle inspection certification, but these guys are full-time doing it, and they're good at what they do. They also are involved with writing a lot of the policies that go into what is law or becomes law. Okay. That's a great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that, by the way. So a first in 2 years for you. Is drinking a beverage while driving an offense now? Not in Ontario. Now listen, if you're drinking and you're swerving all over the road because your water is just distracting you from and preventing you from driving and operating your vehicle safely, that's careless driving. That doesn't change. You have to drive your vehicle safely. You have to be in control of said vehicle. But it's not an offense to take a sip of water or take a bite of your hamburger or eat a French fry. Some provinces, however, might have rules that are different than ours. So Ontario, legal, elsewhere, maybe not. Itchy nose. What do we got here? We got. Why do people drive in the left lane? It's a passing lane. Well, there is no actual passing lane. That is sort of a policy or belief or system that's been passed down from years and years. All the lanes are the same. However, courtesy says if you're moving slower, stay to the right. And some places have signage that actually directs slower moving vehicles to stay to the right. Now, if you are unnecessarily slow driving, which doesn't include driving at the speed limit, by the way, you're never allowed to exceed the speed limit even when you're passing, although many drivers are really not informed. They believe that they're allowed to exceed the speed limit. And guess what? Speed kills. It's illegal. It's against the law. We write tickets for it. So nowhere should you be going above the speed limit. But anyway, if you're not going at the speed limit or below it, stay to the right. Let the people who choose to break the law get past you without causing an issue. And I say that because the people who choose to make the roads unsafe through speeding, they tend to stay to the left. And if you're in their way, they will make all sorts of dangerous maneuvers to move around you. So let them get through. We love to catch them speeding. It is easier when we know where to look. But really, we just ask that everybody slow down. We've had 39, unless it's gone up since yesterday, deaths on our roads. And guess what? Speed has been a factor in a majority of them. It is a serious problem, and nobody wants to pay attention to it. I don't know. I keep talking about it. Hopefully, someone will take me seriously. And many people have reached out and said, I'm a better driver because of things that you've said or advice that you've given, and I hope I hope that carries through. I hope a lot of people change the way they drive, because we want you to get to where you're going safe and sound every day, and we want everyone on the road to be safe and get to where they're going to. We have too many people getting hurt out there every day. To put it into perspective, I know I talked about it yesterday. I'll briefly talk about it today. 39 people dead on our roads because of collisions. We also had, that's Toronto specifically, we also have had roughly 45 homicides in the city of Toronto. So why do I bring that up? Because those two numbers are not that far apart, and yet people are really upset about the people who die as a result of crime, and not upset enough about the people who die as a result of vehicle collisions. There, I've said it. Okay, moving along. Regarding motorcyclists, if they are speeding or something, can police chase them? Yeah, we can if we need to. What we like to do is get all their information before we turn our lights on, and then just, if they run, we meet them at home and we add all sorts of extra charges, because you stop for police because you have to, and you shouldn't be breaking the law in the first place. If everyone just followed the law, we'd have a lot fewer issues. I don't get that. Frustrates me. We had a situation. Somebody was asking about lane filtering, and why is lane filtering illegal in Canada? So it depends if you're asking truly about filtering, where at a stoplight, motorcycles and bicycles move to the front of the line to get them through, versus lane splitting, where vehicles are choosing to drive between lanes at a higher rate of speed. Well, we just saw something on the 401 recently. My understanding, it was a motorcycle traveling at a high rate of speed between vehicles, lane splitting. That's obviously dangerous. Oh, and by the way, did we mention it ended up in a collision and the rider seriously injured and the bike destroyed based on the photos I saw? Yeah. It's lane filtering and lane splitting are illegal because they're careless behaviors that lead to serious injury and death. What do we have this? Okay. Someone wants to know about the MTO tow zone. I'm not familiar with details of the MTO tow zone, but maybe we'll get Sgt Campbell to speak to it when he joins us in a bit. Why would I be ticketed if parked on the side of the road facing opposing traffic? Well, because there's rules about how you park, and the only people who can park on the side of the road and opposing traffic are folks who have accessibility permits, because it would be based on their ability to move, load or unload wheel devices that need to, but everybody else has to park properly. So that's why. If you have more questions about that, feel free to ask. Well, let's see here. We have MSU Crypto. If someone under 5 drives a car, can they throw it back? I'm not sure what your question really means. Under 5-year-old driving a car? That's a problem, isn't it? Pepe Pat says, good morning. Good morning to you, sir. Okay. What is this? Oh, nice. So apparently Pepe got a tour of the station recently, and this is after a CNE visit. So cool. Too bad you came late at night. Otherwise, you would have been able to say hello to me, but I'm not here late at night. Okay. So someone got a ticket for accepting Uber ride while driving, but I have no option to accept while driving. Well, yes, you do actually. You could be not driving and accept an Uber ride. So you can't use your handheld communication device, even if it's mounted. And if Uber requires you to press a button and play with your phone or direct it or read it, you're using your phone, and that's against law. $615 fine, 3 demerit points, 3-day suspension on conviction. I don't know why this is shocking. Uber drivers, park somewhere legally while waiting for your fare, and you will not get ticketed for using your phone while driving, because you won't be driving. You'll be legally parked. You do not get a free pass. Everyone, nobody is allowed except for police, fire, ambulance, and there's a couple of other exceptions. And what is it called? Taxis are not one of them. Okay. Vision Zero Enforcement Team, thank you for the reminder. I neglected the Vision Zero Enforcement Team. Sorry, guys and gals and people and folks. Today, the Vision Zero Enforcement Team, who, by the way, are a group of dedicated officers who are out there every day working to make the roads safer. They do that by issuing tickets, not hugs. They are looking for the big 4, the folks who are speeding, aggressively driving, distracted driving, or impaired driving. Those are behaviors we know to lead to serious injury and death on our roads. They are trying to change that behavior, and they do it by issuing tickets. And what does that do? Well, it gets people very often to have a loss of license, if not an increased insurance. And hopefully it changes behavior, because you need to. You need to change your behavior. Where are they today? They are in 22 Division and 41 Division. That's the Etobicoke West Mall, Queensway, Etobicoke neighborhoods. That's Dorset Park, Kennedy Park, Birchcliff, and Cliffside. Those are the real places where real people live that want you to slow down so that their communities are safer. And how do we know where to send people every day? Because every day is different, and we posted on our Twitter account. Well, we know where to send people because we have analysts who are analyzing crash data, and they determine based on the numbers and their big brains where to send officers every day. And somebody sent me a message yesterday saying, well, is that how they determine how to target cyclists? We don't target cyclists. There may be times when cyclists get a ticket, but that does not mean we're targeting cyclists. We're looking for people who are breaking the law, because we're trying to make the road safer. And the Vision Zero Enforcement Team is not focused on cycling. They're just trying to make people safe. All right. Am I required by law to carry a physical driver's license when driving if I have it memorized? This person's from BC. I don't know what BC law says, but in Ontario, memorization does not qualify for surrendering it upon demand. See, when you are operating a motor vehicle in Ontario, you are required to surrender upon demand a license, ownership, and insurance. And if you don't provide the original driver's license, the actual plastic card, because we don't have an electronic version and Crayola is not acceptable, you get a ticket for failing to surrender. It's a $110 ticket. If you don't surrender an original or true copy of your motor vehicle permit upon demand, it's a $110 fine. If you don't surrender your insurance slip, or in some cases, if your insurance provider provides you with an electronic version, you can provide that. Well, it's a $65 fine. In any case, you got to surrender that information upon demand, and it's not enough to give the number. Now, an officer may accept it and say, I can look it up, I'll do it. Now, you have broken the law, but the officer is using discretion, and that's possible. So not every police interaction, even with a traffic person, results in a ticket. It may result in a ticket because you have broken the rules, and the rest is up to them. Big Jeff Fresh, good morning to you. Let's see here. I already covered that, even though it wasn't specifically the question. It was a question about insurance cards. Okay. What happens if I drive with my inside light on? And I think you mean interior light of your motor vehicle. Nothing in Ontario, although other places, it's against the law. In fact, I grew up thinking it was against the law because mom and dad would always say, turn off that light, I'm going to get pulled over by the police. Yeah, I put up a video of that like a year and a half ago, and it went bananas. Throughout the United States and Canada, people were like, my mama lied to me. Yeah, well, my mom lied to me too. truth is, it's probably based on another jurisdiction or television that, I also believed it was illegal to drive with barefoot. It's not illegal to drive barefoot. However, many people believe it is. To this day, people are shocked that they are legally permitted to. Listen, we don't suggest it. It's not a good idea, but it's not illegal. What are other misinformation things with driving? Things that we grew up thinking were one but not the other. I should do a whole series of those. But I have to know what they are. So I know that those are the two most common: lights on interior and the other being barefoot. But maybe there's others. And high heels, and people ask about types of shoes. Yeah, clogs and flip flops and all sorts of. I have wooden clogs I bought when I was in Holland. I wouldn't want to drive with those. Those are. I have a size 15 shoe. My wooden clogs are just. I couldn't get into the car. I don't think. I put them on recently. I showed them to my kids. Like, why do you have those? Because I was a tourist in Holland. I bought them. They even engraved my name in them. Okay. What is this? What would happen if I ran a red light and it had a camera that caught me and police officer saw? Well, you could get 1 or 2 tickets. So the electronic ticket that's issued by the city is 1, and it's for the offense. But there's a separate situation when it's a different charge. The police officer could still lay the charge, and frankly, that ticket that the officer writes is to the driver as opposed to the owner of the motor vehicle. So I would much rather give you a ticket for a red light in person, because that affects your driver's license, and I pull you over. I'd investigate you at very least, even if I was confident that you already received the ticket. Maybe you could defend the red light ticket with the conviction of your red light ticket from the police officer. But don't run red lights. That's really the root of the whole thing. Don't break the law, especially when you're talking about stuff that gets people killed on a regular. Can I go 150 kilometers an hour in the left lane if that's what the traffic flow dictates? Absolutely not. You are never allowed to speed above the speed limit legally. You can't do 150 kilometers an hour, which is stunt driving, by the way. And if everyone's doing 150, y'all should have your licenses torn up in front of you. But that's obviously not something we're allowed to do. But we do suspend the license roadside for 30 days. And you are going to have your vehicle impounded at that point, because 50 kilometers over, well, actually 150 anywhere, regardless of the speed limit, is stunt driving. Yeah, stunt driving. I'm very passionate about stunt driving and the stopping it from occurring. Why people think that this is even relatively a good idea, remotely possible. Why would anyone need to go that fast? Go on a track. You want to race, you want to do speeds, race car speeds, go on a racing track. Or go to Germany, use the Autobahn. That's usually the other comment that usually comes up. Let's see here. Why don't police ticket people on highway driving without headlights at night? Well, I did whenever I was on the road and saw it. I call them ghost cars. They're actually something I look for all the time. Why? Because these are vehicles that are completely invisible. Their brake lights are not active. Their rear running lights are not active. Their brake lights work when they depress the brake. But someone that doesn't have their full lighting system on at night because they are relying on their daytime running lights, they're invisible on the road, and people often hit them. Yeah. We pull them over when we see them. But they're invisible, so it's harder to see. No, we pull them over. What do we see here? Can you step out of your vehicle when pulled over if you have a loud crying baby in the car? Why would you get out of the car? Don't get out of the car unless you're directed to by a police officer. It's unsafe on the road. We want to protect you, and we will survive listening to a crying baby. Don't get out of the car. I appreciate the sentiment, but don't get out of the car. And if you think you need to tend to your baby that's maybe in distress and the crying is more than just you're trying to save our ears, ask. Get direction. Tell us what we're doing. If we're pulling you over, we want to see you do things, and jumping out of the car is not one of them. Okay, when coming off the highway ramp, it has 2 right turn lanes. Can both lanes turn on red? Yes, they can. Oh, that's one of those things that people often didn't know. I grew up thinking that you could only do that on the curb lane, but it's any lane. So you had to become a police officer to find that out, or listen to my show. And the deal is, yes, both can turn right on red if it's safe to do so, and if the proper turn is made, which means right curb, or the curb lane to the curb, the lane to its left to the corresponding lane on the left. Has to be done in safety, which is no different than any other turn. You must ensure that you can do it in safety. All right. I see motorcycles on the Gardner doing wheelies on motorcycles with no plates. Well, the no plates is an issue. The wheelies is an issue. That's stunt driving. And I've not seen that myself, but if we see it, we do get involved. That's a problem. That's stunt driving. We take things away. We phone friends. We anticipate where these, I have to say it, idiots are going. People who do this kind of stuff on the road, I have absolutely no respect for you. I'm sorry. That is behavior that is not acceptable on our roads. Okay, how do 16-year-old children get released from a car? What was this? How do 16-year-old children get released from a car accident without their parents being called? At 16, they're driving. There's no obligation to notify a parent at 16 that I'm aware of. They're drivers. In fact, 16-year-olds can sign themselves out of school. I don't believe there's a need to notify a parent at that age. 15 would be a problem, but then if they were driving at 15, there would be a bigger problem. Okay. Adam wants to know, is showing a digital copy of your insurance okay, and do I have to give my phone to the officer, or does he just write it down? So it's Adam, it depends if your insurance company provides you with an electronic copy by way of an app, as opposed to just showing your phone of a photo of a piece of paper. So it really depends. It's to their satisfaction. You might have to give them the phone. You may just be able to show it to them. Depends on the officer. Okay, do we have any other questions on Instagram? We got here. This is Diane wants to know, when you go through a work zone with a posted lower speed limit and they are not working, in other words, the weekend, can I get pulled over for going over the posted speed limit, usually 40 kilometers an hour? So it depends on what color that speed limit is. If it's an orange sign, if it's a yellow sign, that's a cautionary sign. That's not enforceable as a speed limit. If it's a white sign, we would, in Toronto, erect white signs that are regulated. At that point, you can be pulled over. If the sign is there, it is enforceable. Okay. Can you be pulled to secondary inspection during a ride program with no suspicion of impaired driving? Oh, this is a great question and a very good question to ask. So as of 2018, we got something called mandatory alcohol screening, MAS. And in Canada, we no longer require suspicion of alcohol in order to perform a test. So yes, you can get secondary, which is to have to blow into a roadside screening device. Yes. It's anyone. So now the only thing is we have to have a plan. So if we have every vehicle that we stop is going to get tested, that's the case. If every fifth vehicle is going to get stopped, yeah, we can do that. Absolutely. What is this? Liz is spreading false information here. Drivers who believe that they are safe to speed if they are only doing less than. Oh, yeah, no, you're right, Liz. You're not allowed to go over at all. No speeding. Sorry, back to the MAS. I saw a squirrel. I saw a good. Caps really do catch the eye. The deal is that any vehicle that is lawfully stopped, and we can lawfully stop a vehicle for many reasons, can be a demand can be made for a roadside screening device to confirm sobriety. That's it. And if you refuse, it's an arrest. It's the same charge and suspension that would be for impaired operation. But yeah, no longer do we require to have an odor of alcohol. No longer do we require to have a admission of consumption. You're the fifth car. I said at the beginning of my shift, I put in my notebook, every 5 cars, and that's it. Okay. What are the different regulations for riding e-bikes? Is there a different class based on wattage? Do you require a license to ride an e-bike? Another fantastic question. I love e-bikes. Actually, I have an e-bike. I think they're fantastic. I like pedelecs. I'm not a fan of these modified motorcycles that claim to be e-bikes. I'll tell you the details. An e-bike in Ontario must be regulated to it cannot exceed 32 kilometers an hour on a flat surface. Period. It cannot have more than a 500-watt motor. It cannot weigh more than 120 kilos. The rider must be 16 years old and wear a helmet. Period. That is it. If it does 33 kilometers an hour, it's modified. It's a motorcycle. It requires license, ownership, and insurance. If it has a motor that's 501 watts, it's illegal. And many, many people are modifying their devices, and they're not legal. Equally, we should talk about e-kick scooters, because that's a big thing now. They're all over the city of Toronto. They're all illegal. Why? Because although there's a pilot in the province of Ontario, you cannot operate that in Toronto. It's prohibited. You can have, in areas where they're permitted, and every municipality has to opt into this law, they can go no more than 24 kilometers an hour. They can have no seats installed because they're instantly a motorcycle for either of those two. They require a helmet up until the age of 18. And that's it. You have to be 16. No, you have to be 14 to operate one of those. In any case, They're motor vehicles through legislation, both e-bikes and e-kick scooters. They're motor vehicles, but through legislation, and if they conform and they're permitted, then they are considered and given the rights of bicycle use while conforming. But again, people modify them. If they're motor vehicles again, guess what? License ownership, just on the insurance requirements alone, $5,000 to $25,000 fine if you choose to violate it. That's a lot of coin. That's a lot of coin. And when people are usually riding those to be good to the community, good to the environment, cheaper to operate because, well, suddenly you're breaking the rules and you're making it look bad for everybody else. No one's going to like you if you make it that every e-bike needs to be licensed and insured because, you decided to make an e-bike that was not an e-bike. And there's a lot of them out there. I see them like 60, 80 kilometers an hour. I hope that they all get caught and charged. And also gas-powered bicycle conversions, totally prohibited, not allowed on the road. Okay, we have, what do we have? What is this? How are police supposed to get them? Get who? Rob, what are we talking about? What I missed? Oh, I see motorcycle. Oh, I see what you're saying. There's a lot of different ways to do it. We gather a lot of information. We phone friends. We have friends who have helicopters and airplanes. We have lots of resources. If you're talking about people doing silly things on the highway and running away because, they're children. Yeah, I said it. But like really small children. I just can't. People who do this takeover business and just put everybody at risk and to show off, yeah. Someone didn't give you enough hugs. I get it. Okay. Yes. Is Sgt Campbell joining us today? He has threatened to join us. No, he's supposed to be joining us. Every day is a day that starts off with panic and continues with stress. No, we never know how much work we're going to have to do. And Sgt Campbell, who is in charge of a lot of different areas, he joins us because he loves doing this, not because this is part of his list of things to do. So he tries to squeeze in a few minutes with us. And he has told me he's planning to join us, but he does have a lot of stuff on his plate today. Is Underglow illegal in Toronto? It's not a Toronto law, it's an Ontario law. Is Underglow specifically outlined as a law that cannot be? There is no law about Underglow. However, there are laws about headlights and all sorts of other areas of the car. And if you incorrectly install your Underglow, you are projecting light directly in directions. So if your bulb is visible from the side, I'm going to tell you it's illegal. You're projecting light forward, and that's illegal because you can only have two headlights, and they can only be in yellow or white color. So if you have Underglow improperly installed, you may have an unofficial extra headlight, and that would be something we'd ticket you for. Likewise, if it was shining to the rear, also a problem. But it's not specifically illegal, not a named charge for Underglow. And what do we suggest you do? Don't use it on the road at all, would be my suggestion. But if you must, it should be so nicely installed that the bulb is not visible and we only see reflected light from the ground. That's it. A glow, not direct light. Can we get a ticket from a helicopter? A ticket. So here's two things. One, there are areas that are patrolled by aircraft. Usually it's not a helicopter. Usually it's an airplane. It's cheaper to operate. And there are markings on the road. When you pass marking 1, an officer will start a stopwatch. When you cross marking 2, they stop it. They do this math thing, and based on the math calculation, they can determine your ground speed. That information is relayed to an officer on the ground. That officer then stops you, and based on the information provided from that officer in the aircraft, you get a ticket. It's a magical thing. And yes, so the helicopter doesn't land in front of you and stop you, but a ground officer will act on their direction. And so yes, you can. But also we like to follow people home, to find out where they live, to charge them and arrest them for behavior that is unacceptable. So yeah, you can effectively get a helicopter ticket. And that's something you could brag about. Anyway, but it does make for good stories when you're a grandfather. One time I got arrested and dragged out of my house. No. Okay, let's see. Can G1 or G2 drivers have their chance for full license taken away? And if so, what are the circumstances? Well, yeah. So I just posted a video this morning before going live, and it deals with what the demerit points do for you when you are a fully licensed driver. After the live, I'm going to post a follow-up, which is the consequences of a new or learning driver, and then I asked in the second video, which I've yet to post, there's all sorts of consequences for breaking the rules. And they're escalating. So for learners, I'll briefly touch on it now, but I want to come up with the release of a video. Anyway, if for instance, G1, you break a condition as a G1, drive unaccompanied. On your first suspension, you are going to get a 30-day, on your first conviction of a condition being broken, you get a 30-day suspension. On your second, it's a 90-day suspension. On your third, you get kicked out of your driver's license program, the graduated program, you start again at 0. And when you get suspended as a G2 driver for a violation that would incur a suspension, it escalates. We don't want you driving if you can't follow the rules. You don't deserve to be on the road. It's a privilege, not a right. So if you, we'll go into detail with that. I'm going to do a whole video on it, but the suspense, I know it's killing everybody. Hey, listen, my name is Sgt Shapiro. I'm a police constable with the Toronto Police Service here on Ontario, Canada. I talk about traffic law and traffic safety Monday to Friday, unless I decide to take a day off, which happens on rare occasion. And we if you have questions, we generally have answers. And if you would be so kind as to like, share, subscribe, follow, whatever the platform is you're watching, we'd love to have you part of the fam so you get notified when we do this. And you can share it with other people that you care about who need to know the stuff that we know that you need to help them know about. And, yes, if you keep this to yourself, you will be the most knowledgeable person at a party. But it's better to share. Okay. Here's a good question. Why can the ministry sell plate covers, but a cop will give you a ticket for it? So I have seen ministry locations. They are third-party or private brand locations that are licensed to conduct renewals and plates and I've seen them sell it. I've not seen a Ministry of Transportation actual government-run location selling those plate covers. It is not illegal to sell a plate cover. If you want to put that on your car and leave it on your driveway and never drive it on the road, it's not against the law. However, using a plate cover on the road is against the law. And I appreciate that it's frustrating, but you have to understand the laws and where the authorities come from. The Ministry of Transportation, the Highway Traffic Act has authority over vehicles being operated. And it outlines where and how, and it doesn't regulate Canadian Tire and their ability to sell a piece of plastic. And that's just as simple as it is. We're not going to go in and start seizing plastic plates because they're not allowed to be operated on or used on vehicles that are operating on the road. You could put that on a show car. You could possibly use it in other provinces. And that's about all I got to say about that. Would I prefer nobody sell them? Absolutely. It makes my life a lot easier. Okay, somebody wants to go live with us, but we don't go live with anybody because we're the police and we don't know you. We're not put you on screen. We've tried it before, and it actually didn't go so badly, but we've made a determination that we're just not going to have guests. It's easier that way. Okay. We covered this. We covered that. Okay. Thoughts on cyclist riding the sidewalk when some roads are far too dangerous? Well, listen. It's against the law in most jurisdictions for anyone who is 14 years or older to ride on the sidewalk. Why? Because they have pedestrians, and pedestrians are vulnerable, more so even than cyclists, and they need somewhere to be that's safe. So if a cyclist is making it unsafe for them, well, they shouldn't be there, should they? Why should children be on there? Well, because children are vulnerable even more so than the grown-ups. So we make allowances for kids. And every jurisdiction is going to be different. I think in York Region, they may not be as strict about it, but there's fewer pedestrians in York Region. Toronto is a pedestrian-centric environment. A lot of people want to say it's a car place. It's really a pedestrian place. We drive around downtown, there are pedestrians everywhere. And some people will choose to take the risk of a ticket and ride on the sidewalk. And I'll tell you, in most cases, in areas that are urban, there's no pedestrians to be concerned about. And as a police officer, I can speak for myself. I'm not going to pull you over for riding the sidewalk if there is no pedestrian within 100 miles of here, or even anywhere on the sidewalk. We won't go so far as 100 miles. But if there's no pedestrians out there for you to interfere with, it's not an issue for me. It may be for somebody else. And if it's in downtown, there's guaranteed going to be pedestrians that are an issue. So you take your appropriate risk. But that's my thoughts. That's my spiel on why. In Toronto, again, we have cycling infrastructure to protect cyclists. We have bicycle lanes. We have places for them to be that are safer. Is it dangerous in general? Everything we do is dangerous. There's inherent risk when we use the roadways on a bicycle, on rollerblades, on skateboards. You're choosing to travel this way. There's always going to be some risk. Let's see what we got here. Are you planning to have a podcast? That's a great question. Actually, we do have a podcast. It is called TPS Traffic Jam. We've just put out episode 12. TPS Traffic Jam is available on our YouTube channel. Actually, it's on every platform except for Instagram. And it is available for download on podcast apps too. So there's a video version that goes out on YouTube and all our channels. It broadcasts live, or as though it were live, even though it's pre-recorded. And then it's available for download. And you can go check it out now, TPS Traffic Jam, if you, as a hashtag, one word. I think you can also search it as separate words. In any case, we have a podcast. Please go and subscribe to it. That would be great. We have a small, loyal viewership, or listenership, I don't know, audience. And then we have people who watch it also on the video. So whatever your preference, we do have that. And if you have someone that you think would make a great guest, if you have somebody who is traffic related in some way, and we've talked, one of our first episodes with, we had our first episode with TURF, which is the Traffic Injury Research Foundation. I'm traveling with them to Saskatchewan in September. We're talking about, it's a week of distracted driving education. So we're going to be talking to all sorts of folks in Regina and Saskatchewan, or in Saskatoon, I should say. And just so much great stuff. So we did a couple episodes with them. We'll do more in the future. We've spoken to crash survivors. We've talked to MAD, folks from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We talk to people who have something to say. We want to help give our audience your important information. So if you are traffic safety or related, we may have something to talk about on the podcast. And Darius says, I'm from Saskatoon. Cool. Are you in Saskatoon now, or have you come to Toronto? In any case, awesome. Yeah, if you're going to be in the area, if you're going to be there, I'm going to be there from the week of the 18th. That's when I'm going to be in Saskatchewan. In fact, if you go to our Twitter, Traffic Services or VoiceOver Cop information, I retweeted the whole spiel about that. All right. Can you pass a vehicle on a double full line? Can you? Well, in different provinces there are different rules. In Ontario, it's not against the law to cross the line. You can walk the line, you can cross the line. The lines themselves are not enforceable unless you're talking about things like the HOV lanes, which have signs that direct you not to cross lines, and those signs are enforceable. So it's still not suggested. You're still responsible for everything that happens when you do choose to cross that line, because they are warnings. They're there for a good reason. It's not a good idea to cross them, but it's not against the law. What is this? Okay. Is it Faywick? Says, can a driver pull aside, car in park, but ignition on to use a phone? You must be legally parked. So distracted driving occurs when you are operating a motor vehicle or not parked, legally parked. So operating a motor vehicle means if you're at a red light, that's still using your cell phone while you're supposed to be driving. It's against the law. If you pull over to a no parking, no stopping, no standing zone and use your phone, that's against the law. You have to be able to legally park. Did I talk about this one? Well, let me go into the Q&A because this was a great question that I said I was going to get earlier. This is coming in from Volley. That means somebody went to trafficcop.ca and sent this message. And when did they send it? They sent it a long time ago. Did they send it a long time ago? 2:48 a.m. They wanted to make sure this message got in early. Okay, if you are from Alberta and have a disability placard, are you allowed to use during a visit in Toronto? If not, is there a way to get a temporary one from Ontario? We do accept accessible permits from anywhere. We accept it. So if you need the benefit of that accessible, you don't have to apply for anything here. We accept yours, and that's a good thing. You know, folks who need that accessibility need the accessibility, and we absolutely accept them. Okay. We almost, it was so close. Sgt Campbell might be joining us shortly. I saw him walk towards me and then turn around. I imagine he forgot his water. What is this? What makes emergency services so much better at driving that they cannot be distracted while driving? It was water. See, I guessed correctly. The answer is it's not that we're so much better. It's that what we're doing is so much more important. There is amount of calculated risk in using a cellular device or a computer or a radio while driving because the risk of not using it has a high cost. Welcome, Sgt Campbell. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. We're just discussing why, I'll read it again, what makes emergency services so much better at driving that they can't be distracted while driving. And I was just saying that it's the importance of what we're doing and why we're getting important information. If it's just to order a pizza, we must follow the same rules.
Yeah, we have an exemption in there, but it's only during the performance of our duties. And the risk must outweigh the rewards. for us to be able to do it. Yes, we have computers in the cars. Yes, we do have advanced driver training. Yes, we have, to be a police officer or emergency service workers, you must have a good ability to multitask. But yeah, there is a risk with it as well. And there are times that unfortunately emergency vehicles do get into collisions, unfortunately.
And we are responsible for everything we do.
Absolutely.
There is no freebie. It wasn't like, I'm a cop, I get out of this. No, we were investigated. And there's, like I said, no free pass.
And you know what? In fact, we're held to a higher standard. So there are internal discipline where we can be docked hours of pay. There's internal discipline where we could be charged under the Highway Traffic Act or criminal code for things we do. So
yeah. Ryan Schmidt aptly says, risk with going through red lights too. Yeah, when we use our emergency lighting, we are definitely taking a risk, but it has to be a justified risk. So if we're approaching a red signal, we have to stop, make sure it's safe to do so, have our full lighting and siren system active. And when we do that, then we can go through. And if something were to go wrong, we misjudged it, it wasn't as safe as we thought it was, well, we're responsible for everything we do.
Yep, we are.
We talked about this. Okay, we got some laughing here. Oh, Stephen Bell says, hi, good morning. That was a while ago. I missed it like 15 minutes ago. It's an old message. Thoughts on skateboarders riding on the shoulder of small roads? Well, skateboarders is a funny thing. Skateboard's not really a vehicle permitted on the roadway. It seems to happen a lot, but my understanding is that is not a permissible location for riding. I have to reread the specifics, but I believe, which makes them an oddball vehicle. You know.
Yeah, it does, and they're not allowed. I know they're specifically not allowed on sidewalks either. So.
Yeah, they should be in skate parks.
Yeah, they should.
And the electric ones, I've seen. I've done some digging and watching YouTube videos, which is very dangerous. You can get lost on YouTube, as you can with TikTok as well. But there are skateboards that do 40 miles an hour, battery powered.
Wow.
And that to me is, I mean, then again, there's all sorts of things. There are bicycles that do 80 miles or kilometers an hour. There are e-kick scooters that do 80 miles an hour with dual motors.
Miles an hour?
Maybe it's 80 kilometers. Maybe I'm misspeaking. But
yeah, 80 miles an hour is awfully fast.
These are really, really, really fast, and they go like stink. Like in terms of they're all motor, all battery, torque, 100% acceleration. You know, that's wild stuff. But I'm fascinated and terrified by them, and I don't want them on our roads, but that's a whole separate thing. Okay, here's a question. I'm building a project car. This is coming in from Damon on Volley. I'm building a project car, and I want it to be legal from the start. Are there any performance mods I can start with, such as new intake? So is it a project car that's kit from ground up, or is this an old vehicle that's being modified and restored? Because you have to obviously maintain the emission standards that your vehicle, based on VIN, would qualify for when it was manufactured new. If you're building a ground up start, and it's considered to be a new vehicle, it's got to conform to the rules and regulations of a modern vehicle.
Yeah, that's correct. Doing things like building a kit car, you have to build it with a year of manufacture of when it's actually manufactured, and it must comply to that year according to Transport Canada. Modifications to an already existing car, some are legal, some are not. Your mechanic or a mechanic shop would probably be able to give better guidance on the mechanics of making the modifications. And just remember, changing intakes and things like that are modifications you can do. Sometimes they don't gain you any horsepower, and sometimes they actually rob you of horsepower. So,
getting good advice is important. And if you have specific questions, we can try and help you as best we can. But the open-ended, it's very hard for us to go down the laundry list of options.
Yeah.
Here's a great question. I have an elderly mom who I take on errands every week. Can I get a disability parking permit? Your mom may qualify. That's speaking to a doctor to find out if she qualifies. If so, while she's in the vehicle, you could park based on her permit if she's issued one. If she's not in the car, you obviously can't. You can't use a disability parking pass and drop mom at the front door, then drive and park into a disability spot. Accessible permits are while the issued person is in the vehicle, and you won't get one issued for her. She gets one issued, and you get the benefit of it while you're together.
Only while you're together, though.
Yes.
And you know what? Should you not abide by those rules, your mother could lose the parking permit.
Absolutely. So a friend of mine owns a restaurant in Toronto. He was not informed or did not completely understand this. He dropped off his son and his wife. His son is I believe it's his son, in a wheelchair, and then pulled around the side and parked in an accessible spot, and was promptly removed of his accessible permit that was issued to his son. And you think, well, how can you do that? Well, you are able-bodied, so you, as the driver, don't get the benefit of that parking spot. That's the whole reason. If you pulled and stopped into a spot and you all got out, then it would have been legitimate. Anyway.
You know what? People with a disability need those spots. And those spots need to be used by people that need the assistance, that need the accessible parking. So when somebody else uses it, when they're not entitled to, I have no sympathy for them in losing it.
Well, that's it, and it all worked out in the end. He got it back, but it was a misunderstanding, but there are people who abuse these. And my mom was really big on, even though she was entitled to one, and even though she had every right in the world to use it, she chose to use accessible parking unless she absolutely needed it, and her belief was there's someone who needed it more than her. There you go. How are tow trucks at the scene of a collision so promptly? Are they watching cameras or do they have intel? I think they share a lot of information amongst themselves. The deal is that they're everywhere. But in terms of how does it work? I mean, back in the day, they used to have scanners. Of course, now we have encrypted radios, and they should not have access to any information. So how they actually manage to be, maybe they are psychic.
You know what? Not all emergency services radios are encrypted. Take ambulance, for example, in the city of Toronto, it's not. So they can monitor those.
They get hints through other means.
There are rules about when they can respond and when they can't respond. The city of Toronto has some really, really, really good bylaws where the other places in the province do not have the benefit of such things. So be very careful when you are hiring anybody for any task. Treat it, I mean, you wouldn't get somebody to re-roof your house without getting a quote and knowing exactly how much you're going to pay. Tow trucks are exactly the same. Make sure you are hiring who you want to hire and for a price that you want, and get it in writing before anything happens.
These are important things. Now, Sgt Campbell is the owner of the voice you're hearing, who is off camera, and you're in charge of towing in pounds for the City of Toronto, our contracts.
Yes, I am. So the City of Toronto uses 3 contract towing providers to tow our police order tows. And police order tows could be because of legislation, could be because of a parking infraction, could be because of safekeeping. If you're involved in a collision and you go to the hospital and you leave your car there, we will impound it so that it is safe. We can't leave it in the middle of the road. So there are contracted tow providers and there are independent tows that are out there offering their services, and just really be informed about what you're doing and what you're hiring and what you're expected to pay before you give away your car to anybody.
We have a question from Champs Adventures. Says, why are police radios so encrypted now?
You know what? It's an evolution of technology. We went from an old analog signal to a digital signal, and in doing so increased our ability to have conversations. Sometimes we talk about things that
they're sensitive and they deal with personal information.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so many new laws governing privacy. I'm sure that if you were involved in a situation where we were attending and we were broadcasting identification and personal information, you wouldn't want the entire world to know. And I think that's a lot of it has to do with privacy rules.
Along with that, though, we are a little more transparent than we used to be. Our website online, we can look and see where every police car is.
And I believe that a lot of this is accessible as a portal to the public.
It is. Absolutely it is. And you know what? If you, our communications, our TPOC, our Toronto Police Operations Center, they use, the old platform of Twitter, and they tweet out most things that is happening in your neighborhood, and you can follow along.
Yes, you can check it around, and although not listening to our lovely voices on police radio, which there's nothing lovely about it. The radio is not as much fun as it used to be to listen to, but at the same time, you can watch it all, and it's pretty cool to see what's going on in the city at any given time. Why do the roads have solid yellow lines if it's legal to cross than to pass? So it is a suggestion. Yellow means that the traffic on the other side of the yellow line is traveling against you. It's just the way the law is written here. It's not against the law to cross the line. It's a suggestion. And if you cross the line against that suggestion, that's compelling when you get charged for creating that collision. Other provinces, it is against the law, and states as well. People were shocked to find out that the lines were not enforceable.
Yeah, you know what? They were here before. There was a charge for it, and the Ministry of Transportation and the government of whatever day decided that they no longer wanted that as a law. So there are obligations, though. If you have a roadway that has lines on it, you're expected to stay within it. Should you get into a collision, you'd be probably found more at fault if you weren't in it.
Oh, yeah. What are the laws regarding brake lights? There are 3 on my car. What if one was out? This is a great conversation or discussion because the HTA specifically says you must have 2 headlights and 1 brake light, meaning that if you that even though a vehicle is required to have a third mounted brake light to be sold as a brand new vehicle, it's not something that we can enforce if it were to burn out and break. So as long as you have 1 functioning brake light, although it's less safe than having 2 or 3, legally you're still within the requirements of the HTA.
And even to take that a little bit farther, Sean, you are required to have 1 red light on the rear of your vehicle. If you're using hand signals, which are allowed, you don't even need 1 brake light.
No kidding. That's for signaling. Yes. Fun stuff. Have you ever given an exemption for speeding, i.e. women in labor medical emergencies? I've reduced tickets. I've not had someone in labor. I will tell you that someone who is speeding, regardless of the reason why, is putting lives at risk, theirs and everyone else's. So would I give someone a pass? Well, first of all, if they're experiencing a medical emergency and they were on the way to the hospital, I'd activate EMS. I'd have an ambulance come and take over right there. And we wouldn't be just sending them on their way to continue speeding because there's a very high chance that they wouldn't get to where they're going.
Yeah, absolutely. And imminent birth is a medical emergency.
And we've had police officers deliver babies, sometimes before the medics get there. So this is one of those things. I talk about planning all the time. If you got to get to work, guess what? You should be planning to leave on time, planning what. Even I put my clothes out the night before, so I have a plan. I want to ensure that there are fewer reasons for me to be stressed and potentially in a rush. Why? Because I don't like stress. Stress is no fun. I suggest that everyone give themselves extra time. I like to be early, not just on time. And we often say, in fact, it was something that was drilled into us at the police college. It was early is on time is late is unacceptable. And when you take it to a something with women in labor, my wife was really big on the idea of being early, not worrying about things. So she planned everything out. We were well in advance of anything that was needed to happen because we weren't going to be in that stressful run. There was enough stress involved with childbirth. We didn't need to make more.
John, I got a quick story. My son was born 5 weeks early.
No kidding.
Thank goodness we had proper planning and had his room done and had a bag packed and all those things.
I will never live it down, but I was supposed to start my a course, a criminal investigation course of some kind. I was really excited because I really wanted the course. And my wife says, "Baby's coming." I'm like, "No, it's not. I got a course today." She goes, "Baby's coming." And I didn't go on that course. So yeah. What makes you decide to give a warning versus a ticket? That's a good question, and it's going to be different for every officer. Me personally, I tend to give more tickets than warnings. Warnings can happen. I don't think that we're doing justice by giving warnings. It depends on the offense, of course. If someone was speeding, they're getting a speeding ticket. If someone forgot their driver's license at home, they may or may not get a ticket for that as well. They might get a warning for that particular offense. Depends. You know what? People being honest, taking responsibility for their actions, being polite, those are all things that factor towards whether or not you get 2 tickets or 1 ticket and a warning. But again, every officer is going to be different.
You know what? To change driver behavior is the goal, to make it safer. And sometimes, you know what? It could be a combination of both. It could be one or the other. It could be, every situation is different.
It is, what is this? Okay, I'll come back to Sam, who has a question. But the deal is that there's a belief or a statistic that was thrown around when we're talking about shoplifting. And they say when you catch someone for the first time shoplifting, chances are it wasn't their first time. It was their first time getting caught, which means you can anticipate or speculate that it was about 8 to 10 times doing it before they actually got caught, before they got brazen enough to get caught. So someone who's speeding, as an example, is probably speeding every day and just got caught once. Should we give them a warning? Because that might just allow them to continue along. I want to log and have their license logged with demerit points so that when they continue that behavior, there's a pattern, it's recorded, and they lose their license, because that's ultimately what demerit points are about. By the way, if you're interested to know about demerit points, check out the video I posted this morning before we went live. It talks about what a fully licensed driver, what the implications of getting demerit points when you accrue them. What I will be posting after this live is a follow-up video which deals with new and novice drivers and how the demerit point system works differently for them. And there's also an invitation that if you comment in the second one, we can also do a video talking about how the escalating penalties for new and novice drivers. We can do one on that as well, if there's interest. If no one wants to know, then we don't need to do it. All right. We saw. What was this? It was a question from Sam. I'm moving. Caught my eye. I'm moving in 60 days. Can I update my license address early when renewing, or context it's expired? So keep it current until you actually move. Don't change your address until you've actually moved, unless you've got possession of the new property, which you could technically, change it to your new primary because you're in process of transitioning. Better to actually change it once you start sleeping in the new place, and you can then update it online if you're on Ontario for free. It's just a quick thing. They'll send you out an update. Very easy to do. That would be my suggestion. But you are required within 6 days of moving to change it.
And just a reminder, when you're getting a new license or an updated license, destroy your old one.
Yes.
It is an offense to possess more than one. It doesn't have to be used. Just to possess it is an offense. And unfortunately, sometimes they get lost and used by other people. So,
for things like opening bank accounts in your name, like doing nasty things.
Getting mortgages, leasing cars.
You don't want to put yourself at that risk. There's too many scams out, too many scammers. Is there an offense for driving unnecessarily with high beams? Yeah, there is. There's improper headlights, or I should say fail to use lower beam, I think is the wording. And the requirements, is it 150 meters oncoming and 60 meters from behind? I think that's what it is.
Right. There's two separate offenses, one for following other vehicles with your high beams on, one for meeting other vehicles with your high beams on. And, well, you know what? We could look it up if you want.
So we have, we'll double check that. In the meantime, Damon has a follow-up question coming in through Volley. And it says, my wife has a joint disorder, and having one of those parking passes can mean the difference between an afternoon or a dislocated knee. Secondly, what are some of the vehicle mods that you can pull someone over for? The vehicle mod thing is a forever, there's a forever list of those, because it could be anything from modifications from sound. Truly, we can pull someone over just to confirm that they are a licensed driver, that they have insurance, and that they're sober. So everything else is just additional reasons to pull someone over. But in terms of the accessible permit, it's a huge deal. It really is a big deal to have accessible parking. I know that myself, having suffered injuries that I'm still recovering from, it makes a huge difference if you can, whether you can go and suffer for a day or simply, get to where you're going, and you should have just stayed home. So it's a huge difference. It makes, but even for me, if I have a good day, I don't need it. If I'm having a miserable day and it happens, I have an accessible permit and I'll use it if I have to. Okay. And
John,
go ahead.
Just to follow up to what you said before, you're absolutely correct. So following another vehicle is 60 meters. You have to have your high beams lowered. Meeting another vehicle on the roadway is 150 meters.
Cool. I like it when I actually remember the numbers. A lot of numbers, a lot of things to remember here. This is all. I don't have any notes here. All the things I talk about are based on my knowledge of the information. And when I don't know something, I don't know something. But thank you for confirming that. It's nice to know that the memory works. Chase has a voice. He sent me a recording, but I'm going to read the transcript of it. He wanted to thank you for the help with the ATV question last week. Everything worked out well. His follow-up question is, he knows people who buy older cars and then put modern Chevy V8 engines into them. Technically, these cars were manufactured before all the emissions requirements. So where's the rest of it? So, let's see. Where's our?
To thank the sergeant for help with the.
Let me follow up to the end.
So they delete all the modern catalytic converters and all the modern stuff that engine comes with. Is that technically legal because the VIN and everything was manufactured, like it's all before those requirements? So
the question is, can they get rid of all the emissions requirements because although their engine is new, the vehicle's VIN number is old? My understanding is that's why the old cars are so valuable, because people want to be able to have and bypass all of those emission standards. So that's my understanding.
So it's based on the year of manufacture of the vehicle. But if the vehicle was manufactured, like take, for example, the 70s cars after 73, where they had smog pumps and really bad power robbing pollution controls that didn't function that well, you need to still have those on your 1970s vehicle, which most people would never want to do if they put in a modern engine in it. So
you're better off with the current emission standards than the one of the year that it was manufactured.
yes.
But if it was predating anything, then you'd be okay for what it would. So if it was a 1950s car,
Yep.
then you'd be okay with 50 standards.
Yep. Back then, a charcoal canister was all you got, and that was all that was needed.
So be careful what you wish for. Modern vehicles with modern emissions are actually not a bad thing. But it is interesting. A lot of people buy them because they don't want to have seatbelt. Oh, what a seatbelt! I want a seatbelt and everything operate. If you are in a collision caused by black ice, like you hit someone due to it, can you be charged? Yes. Conditions on the road do not resolve you of responsibility. So if it's icy out, you knew it was icy because there's ice on the ground. It's snowing. There's conditions. And if you drive in such a way that you are driving faster than the road conditions allow, that's a careless situation in most cases. Will you necessarily be charged? It doesn't mean you're going to be charged, but you could be charged.
You know what? When I go investigate a collision, I look at how many vehicles before and after the vehicle involved in the collision passed by that exact same spot and did so properly, slowly, and made it. So you got to think, what was this driver doing that was different from all the others that were going that direction?
Yeah, speed too fast for the condition, improper tires possibly, so many different factors. And we look at all of it. Investigating a collision is a holistic approach. We don't just say, yep, you got into a crash, you're responsible. No, we look at everything because we're nice like that. Hey, Sean, what if an e-bike goes faster than 32 kilometers an hour downhill? It's not about downhill. Flat surface is the standard. So if it's capable of only doing 32 kilometers an hour on a flat surface, but it goes downhill because gravity factors into it, then that does not translate instantly into a motor vehicle. Again, it doesn't lose the legislation benefit. But on a flat surface, if it can do more than 32, it's a motor vehicle. If the paint on a plate is missing, is that ticketable? Yes, you can. The fact that your plate is not in appropriate standard, if it's not legible and in properly, good condition and legible, yeah, you can be charged. It's $52 to get a new plate. It used to be $10. I miss those days, $10 or $15, and now it's $52. There is a warranty for 5 years, so if it falls apart before then, you should get it replaced under warranty. What were we going to say, Serge?
I was going to say, it's kind of funny. The plate is actually owned by the Ministry of Transportation. It's not your plates. They let you use it. But during use and it deteriorates, it is your fault, and you have to replace it and pay to replace it.
Yeah. So the big thing is stay up on and utilizing the warranty while the warranty is valid, because it would be a shame to have to pay for it if you didn't have to by just being on top of it. So circle check's important. We have, if the flow of traffic, pretty much all cars in the highway, is that everyone is doing 10 above the speed limit, do you ticket one, all, or none? It really depends. Are they all breaking the law if everyone is doing 10 over? Yes. Is it worth trying to pull over every car? Well, it's not even feasible. But what would you do? It really depends on the observations of the officer. Could any one of them be pulled over and ticketed? Yeah, they could. Are most officers probably looking for someone who's going a little bit faster? It depends on the situation. If you're in a 40 kilometer an hour zone and you're doing 10 over, you're doing 25% over the speed limit. If you're in a 100 kilometer an hour zone doing 10 over, it's much less concerning, I think is the best way to put it.
You know what? It's still a risk. And I've noticed a trend, Sean, that no matter where I drive in a marketplace car, people tend to slow down to the speed limit.
It's funny
when I'm around. And there could be the one who isn't paying attention, doesn't see it, and continues on his 10 kilometers over. He would then be the one I would be concentrating my attention on.
Yes, the person who's not aware of their surroundings and does not notice a police officer or does not care. Yeah, that's actually a good way of doing it. Listen, when I was out doing a speed enforcement, yeah, there were people doing 5 and 10 over, but there were a lot of people, more than enough people, doing 20 and 30 over. And in that scenario, I'm looking for the person going faster than everybody else. But if everyone was going the same speed, anyone could be the lucky contestant because all of them are breaking the rules. So it wasn't a matter of I'm not going to write a ticket to anyone because no one's going more than 10 over. At very least, it would be a conversation. What is this? How much time after a collision, regardless of fault, do I have to report it to police? It's a very good question. We have reporting centers all over the place. I say all over the place. There's actually 2 for motor vehicles and 1 that is specifically for cyclists and pedestrians, although cyclists and pedestrians can go to any one of them. We say within 24 hours, but the truth is, if let's say there was a snowstorm, we don't want you rushing in a snowstorm. We want you to go when it's safe to do so. So that could be a couple of days later in some cases. Generally speaking, though, the suggestion is 24 hours.
Well, Sean, the Act says forthwith. So forthwith means right away, but we have to take that with, a little bit of reasonableness and the fact that we've created a collision reporting centers. We're not coming out to every single one of them. So, yes, we do allow you some time. But if you're going over, 48 hours, then you may find yourself eligible for a charge of not reporting.
Failing to report. It's bad. Don't do that. Am I allowed to speed if nobody's on the road but me? No. Is there a way to remove demerit points off the license by going through traffic school like in the U.S.? There are traffic school situations for some charges. However, the points are applied based on conviction. That's it. They come off 2 years after the date of offense. They only go on when you're convicted, and they come off 2 years later, whereas convictions stay on for 3 years after conviction. But yeah, you don't go to school and have it go away. Although it's an interesting concept, and I need to know more about how the schooling works because I think that's related specifically to stunt driving and impaired driving.
Yeah, demerit points are used by the Ministry of Transportation. They're not used by your insurance company, and they're used to identify drivers that are at higher risk. Because once they reach the threshold, they may require a driver's license review to be done to see if you really should have a driver's license.
Yes, that's a big thing. Many people believe that they deserve a driver's license because they deserve a driver's license, and they don't. It's a privilege. Is my passenger allowed to smoke marijuana? I'm in my vehicle, or I'm my vehicle. The wording there is broken, but you are not allowed to smoke marijuana regardless if you are the driver or passenger if you're in a motor vehicle, period.
So, Sean, what you're saying is that is a hard no.
No. Yeah, you're not even allowed to have an open container of marijuana in your vehicle, or alcohol for that matter. At least not within arm's reach of a driver. It has to be sealed. So sealed from factory anywhere inside the vehicle, but consumption absolutely not permitted. And that's for alcohol too. How long does it take to get a motorcycle license in Ontario? Well, if you apply for it, an M1 anyway, it could happen pretty instantaneously. If you're talking about getting an actual M2, if you get into a weekend course after 30 days of being licensed, you can get your M2. You have 90 days to get from beginning to end. You have 90 days. Mind you, right now there's an extension until the end of the year. So if you went and got your M1 today, you'd have till December.
Yep, and not just motorcycle licenses, but the Ministry of Transport is currently extending the changes to the G2 to G rules as well. So,
they're actually continuing to. Maybe they'll make that a permanent change.
Well, you know what? It's still continuing to the end of the year.
Interesting.
So, yeah, my daughter is going from her G2 to G, and she falls within that time frame. So, good luck to her.
My 18-year-old got a speeding ticket going 114 and an 80. Why would the officer tell her not to pay it? I have absolutely no reason. I have no understanding or reason to believe that actually occurred. Why would no one? We don't write tickets and then tell people not to pay them, because if you don't pay them, you're considered and found to be guilty for not responding, and then you're convicted. Now, if he's suggesting you could fight it, I don't know why. That's just explaining the rules. You're entitled to take it to court and challenge it if you wish, and maybe there's some miscommunication there. But telling someone to simply not pay for a ticket, not something a police officer would do, that I'm aware of. But hey, I can't speak for that officer. Maybe it's a communication issue. Are there any legal performance nods that I can start for my project? Or we talked about that.
Sure, there are.
But
check them out first.
Yes. Here. Can I drive my new bike home from a private buyer with bill of sale, ownership, and insurance? Your new bike being a motorcycle that needs to be, plated to be on the road, so you can't just ride it. This is where we got into discussion. If you have a license plate that's valid but not currently assigned to another vehicle, but it's your plate, then you could. My suggestion would be go to the Ministry of Transportation with that person who is, while their plate is active and their insurance is active, and seeing that you have insurance prepared and on the vehicle, you can go get your new plates right away.
Yeah, safety has to be done before permanent plates are issued, but you can get a temporary for a motorcycle as well.
Question of what does it mean to be a true copy of ownership? It means photocopy both sides, not just a single side. Single copy is not a true representation of the entire document. Both sides need to be copied.
And a true copy means the most current copy.
Yes, valid.
Would not be true copy if it was last year's.
Yes. How old must a passenger be to be on an e-bike? All persons on electric bicycles, e-bikes, must be 16 years old. Can a parent ride bike on sidewalk with their child? Technically, no. There's no exclusion of riding beside your child. You know what? It does pose a bit of an issue if your 6-year-old is riding on the sidewalk and you're expected to be on the road. I've heard from people who said, you know what, I'm okay with a $60 or $80 ticket because I'm going to do what's safer. That's up to you. That's as a rider and as an adult making that decision. That's entirely your call. But know that it's against the law. Okay, what's the difference between a modified exhaust and a Harley Davidson? They both make the same sound. Well, a Harley, factory Harley, doesn't make that much noise. It's actually annoyingly quiet. What most purchasers do when they buy a new Harley, about 8 seconds after the deal is signed and it's in your name, is they say, I'd like those factory cans to be removed. Do what you want with them. I'm buying those aftermarkets. And then the vehicle rolls out of the Harley dealership with an aftermarket exhaust. The dealership's covered because they sold it to you the way it was meant to be sold, and then you as the owner have instructed them to put something else on. They are not necessarily illegal, and they can be ticketed. And that's the deal on that. What do we got here? Is it illegal to walk across the street not at a designated crosswalk? I believe in the bylaw on that is within 50 meters of a crosswalk in Toronto. It is not illegal to cross the road outside of a designated crosswalk. It depends on in relation to how close it is. If it was closer to go through the crosswalk, you should, and you can be ticketed for not using the crosswalk. If it was a 1 kilometer road with no breaks in it, no crosswalks, how are you supposed to cross the road? You're not supposed to walk a kilometer north to go across, 10 feet and then walk a kilometer back. So it's about being reasonable too, and not putting yourself at risk. So if it's busy traffic and you walk into traffic, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a bylaw offense. We have it here in the city of Toronto, and other municipalities may have different offenses for not using them. We've
gone way over time. Holy moly, this has been so much fun, and I've been getting such great questions here that we've just kept on going. Just going to scroll through here to see if there's anything, not that any one question is more important than the other, but if there's something, a real zinger, maybe we can grab it and then
we get to listen to a song.
Yeah, it is our favorite. We actually walk around the station humming this song. It's become a thing. Just quickly here. Love your show. Can you quickly describe the process for minor MVC that you may not need police? That's a good one to go. We should talk about that quickly. Minor motor vehicle collisions. So a collision where there is no injury, there's minor damage under $2,000 between both vehicles or all involved vehicles. If all the insurance, ownership, and driver's license is all good to go, like it's all valid on its face, it appears to be good, and there's no issues, there's no criminality, there's no impaired, there's no other things that make it more complicated. If that's the situation, then you can go to a collision reporting center after exchanging information. If it's where somebody's gone to hospital by ambulance, we're coming to investigate at scene. If somebody can't produce their driver's license or insurance, we're going to come and investigate. So, but the basic stuff, minor collisions with no injuries or minor damage, as long as there's no criminality, it's under $2,000 total, and all the documents in place, that's a go to the CRC. And if you have any questions...
Actually, Sean,
go ahead.
It isn't a go to the CRC, so that is a non-reportable...
Oh, it's a non-reportable. My apologies.
That is a non-reportable collision, and
Thank you.
Do not have to make the provincial report. If there is no criminality, under $2,000 combined, both vehicles, no damage to municipal or private property, and no criminality, a report is not made.
So if it's above that, it's reportable. You would still have to go and report it. But if the documents are okay, regardless if it's drivable or not, because you can be towed to a collision reporting center. Thank you for kicking me back onto the track on that, because I've been talking about the non-reportable stuff so much I've replaced it. Anyway, so if there's nobody going to hospital, then it can be taken to a collision reporting center for a report to be done. And the only other time is if it's in the middle of the night. it's going to be done at scene. Is it by 11 or 12 now?
Yeah, I think they close at 11. So
11.
you have to be able to arrive before 11.
Here's the big thing. You can call police and you can get direction from a dispatcher. If it's obvious that it's good to go, the tow operators will likely just suggest, hey, you're okay. This meets the requirements, and they'll take you. But again, talking about towing, know your tow, know your rights. You don't pay for a tow going to the collision reporting center. The collision reporting center pays the tow truck for that single drop. You can arrange a separate tow to get you to a shop afterwards. But the actual tow to the collision reporting center is covered by the collision reporting center, and we've heard some stories of people who try and suggest otherwise.
Yeah, who pay for tow, and then the tow driver gets
Double paid,
and additionally to that, tow drivers that are suggesting their preferred repair shops or their preferred rental car agencies, yeah, that's a big no-no as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who want to get paid commission for repairs, and they'll tell you to go to a rental company that they suggest, or a repair shop that they suggest, and sometimes those rates are really inflated so that they can pay the tow operator or referring person a big commission. So don't get sucked into it. Go where you want to go. Get them to take it where you want to go, and be careful with storage. Oh, we'll take it to my shop overnight, but tomorrow we'll take it to your place when it opens. Yeah, that has the smell of scam on it.
And you know what? Get your invoice printed out, signed by the tow operator with all his information on it before anything happens. So you know what you're going to pay.
We've got so many good questions here, but we don't have the time to go through them. So there's one here that says, are electric one-wheeled unicycles legal in Toronto? They are not. They're not legal anywhere. Those are not legal for the road. They're not legal for the sidewalk. They're not legal for anything but private property. And I've seen some pretty gruesome collision video of people on those one wheels where their body parts aren't attached the way they used to be. They're very dangerous. I've seen those people charged under the HTA for unsafe vehicles, where they're held responsible for being involved in collisions. There you go. And a follow-up to how old do you have to be on an e-bike? 16 years old? Yeah, this was a 9-year-old who really wants an e-bike, and it means that you cannot get it for him because he has to be 16. On private property, no problem. On the road, or not legal. All right. With that, despite the fact that there are so many great questions, I invite you to join us on our other social media platforms. If you want to continue the conversation, you're welcome to do it asynchronously, meaning not right now, but you leave a message and we'll get back to you using Volley app. That means by going to trafficcop.ca, you can too join our community, ask these questions all the time. We'll get back to you when we have time, and that could be any time. We can also use your video, voice, or text by sharing it with the community when we go online. We're getting into a better routine with that. In any case, have a wonderful day. Here's some music to start your day or to continue your day. Here is
red light, yellow light, green light.
You can just sing it if you want. We'll just wait. See you tomorrow. Have fun, be safe, and drive sober.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed, and watch your driving. Don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get freed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
10, 9, 8,